Whew, after 5 months of the whole entire hiatus with the forms of Yoshi's Woolly World Let's Play, so I must admit though for this point folks, I will apologize for that, the actual hiatus of this for the sake of this Let's Play, because, well, we'll explain more details as soon as we're able to continue things onwards. So, even then though, hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I'm Duffy Duck here once again, and I'm back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Yoshi's Woolly World for the Nintendo Wii U, / Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World for the Nintendo 3DS. So, last time we did manage to completely done with the second half of the forms within World 1 by going through, World 1-5, especially noticeable with World 1-6, 7, and 8, and we did manage to beat the likes of the birds, the forms of that nostalgic boss, ever since during the likes of in the original Yoshi's Island. So even then though, and today for this video is the fact that I could assuming that hopefully we can able to finish up with World 1, and after we're done with World 1, then we can able to instantly jump into World 2 after this. So even then though, and as you can see right there on screen, as you can see right there, I managed to able to get ourselves the golden star in World 1-5 off screen, so I can't feel like showing off the level again, but the forms of like, taking no damage scenario, so even then though, this is how it's supposed to be when it comes to like the future levels and onwards for the sake of this Let's Play. But then again, the actual main focus with the forms of this Let's Play in particular is of course, collecting some sort of those, yarn balls and all that stuff, all these little pieces of wool yarn, and especially noticeable with these smiley flowers, and especially noticeable with the Miiverse patches. So even then though, yeah, this is as far as I can say about this here. So even then though, let's just get into the forms of, the final level in World 1, and in order to actually get access to those special levels is the fact that, these little smiley flowers that we've already got from the first, few stages worth noting for? Well, we do need to collect all of these smiley flowers in order to actually access to these special levels. So even then though, I'm actually going to be equipping that specific badge right there, which actually costs about 7,500 speed. So even then though, a little bit pricey and expensive to equip that. But even then though, let's get into the forms of the first special stage in Yoshi's Woolly World, which we have World 1-S, which appears to be Hang Tongue. Because of this though, the main premise of this level, as you can see right there, is the fact that we need to constantly using those little water rapid stuff, and then every time you land on that water, well, basically chances are you weren't able to actually stand a chance. However though, the entire portion of the level, if you couldn't tell, it's all bottomless pit heavy, so even though every time you fell off and die, well, you need to redo the entire level over and over again, and to top it all off, you need to collect those collectibles again, because even though, as far as special stages are most likely concerned, there aren't any checkpoints around. So that's the reason why I'm deciding to get a little bit of a cheating going on right there, and plus I just want to show this off. And that was the fact that you can able to actually equip one of the badges that you can able to use, which is specifically fell into the actual bottomless pit, and then if you do fell down, then you can able to go back up again. So even then, that's the only major purpose is I want to able to, show this off, because even then I'm gonna be, showing to you all, with the badges usage. So even then though, that's only because of how the fact that I just want to able to actually just, well, let's just get into the actual main example of how the fact that it's been such quite a long time since we're actually now finally coming back into this game, as for the sake of this Let's Play, since February. Well, originally I would decide able to continue for the sake of this Let's Play until when Yoshi's Crafted World will be released during that time in March the 29th, but it's already been a thing right now, and especially noticeable with how the fact that we were expecting to able to actually go through the entire game within like a couple of months or so, but because I finally managed to able to actually come back to this though, and especially noticeable that the reason why I'm not going to able to play Yoshi's Crafted World just yet, because of, just playing through this game first, and then after that, well, I can assure you we can able to actually tackle through Yoshi's Crafted World and doing that sometime in next year. So even then though, hopefully that will happen though, so even then though, that was should able to get some experiences, all things considering. So, I get a feeling we're actually missing something right there, because I know for the fact that it's been 5 months since we're actually coming back into this game, because even then though, I think, that last time we've already almost concluded the entirety of World 1, and this is how it's going to be when it comes to the forms of the one thing I forgot to mention about this ever since the very beginning of this Let's Play is the fact that I was able to actually gonna do, like, more levels in the future, but we'll decide to stick with, you know, 4 levels for the time being in one video, just for the sake of the forms of the actual video's length, and especially noticeable with, just to try and able to make it a little bit more of a compens for the, you know, just to try and able to actually complete some of this stuff of how this game offers us to. And yeah, that's how you can able to actually just, equip that badge like I shown you to you guys for about a few seconds ago, and, basically this allows you to able to actually get back up again. So even then though, yeah, you probably get the idea of how this will be totally game-breaking, because even then though, I just want to show you guys of how this badge actually works. But even then though, aside from that though, well, I might not get to use it all the time though, but I might use it occasionally if there are some trickier, difficult levels in there during at some point or another. But even then though, but then again, much like Kirby's Epic Yarn, is the fact that there are no extra lives. So even then though, that's only because of how the fact that, well, you do die in Yoshi's Woolly World, but even then though, there aren't any extra lives. So even then, I just want to classify that. Whilst unlike any forms of Kirby's Epic Yarn / Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn, well, despite the Devilish mode is now a thing in the 3DS version of Kirby's Epic Yarn, which, that was the only time you will die and failed on that particular run. So even then though, at least on normal mode, you might be still pretty much exactly the same as the Wii version counterparts, but with missing, multiplayer features, which kind of happens the same thing for, you know, Yoshi's Woolly World for the Wii U, that it does have multiplayer, two-player co-op, and especially notable with, in the 3DS version, it's only for single-player experience only. So even then, it was a little bit odd and pretty much questionable design choices when it comes to, like, adding some less features and all that stuff. I get it because you can able to play these games on the go, and especially noticeable that some of these visuals do look a bit downgraded compared to the forms of the previous generations of consoles, basically. So that's as far as I can most likely think about this for the time's sake. So even then though, before we leave, there's actually this one last smiley flower right for that point right over there, and yeah, I think for the most part, I think we are pretty much done as it is, except for this, the last 4 of those, well, 6 beasts to be more exact, and because of that though, the Miiverse stamps has been collected. So, but then again, I did manage to take hit quite a few times in this particular level, which again, I'll, going through all of those at the end of these, at the end of, each video, so even then, that way I can able to, you know, do these off screen so that I could able to actually just to say for this right now, that I think I should probably, save the, well, the hard challenges off screen. So even then, so that I just want to show you guys the actual level again. So even then, the actual ultimate premises is that, obviously, just going after the main collectibles, like smiley faces or smiley flowers and stuff. And especially noticeable with, you know, the pieces of yarn to able to fix the actual one of those Yoshi's back. And especially noticeable with, the Miiverse patches. So even then, if I actually missing out one of them, well, of course, I can able to off-screen and then just able to actually do some multitude of, you know, jump cuts into whenever I get to the forms of that specific point if I manage to found some of those pieces, like the Miiverse stamps and all that stuff. So even then, though, that's just precisely the point right there. So, and I think that pretty much does it for World 1, basically. So even then, though, that takes care of that. And now we can able to move on to World 2 now. So even then, though, it appears to be some sort of takes place in some sort of a desert-themed world, kind of think about it. But let's just see what the actual pieces of yarn were actually revealed as, and it appears to be the Wii U Yoshi. Because, get it? Because, you know, this game was, usually came out on the Nintendo Wii U, whilst the forms of in 2017, they did manage to get the port of the game in during the likes of in the 2017, which is normally calls it, Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World, because, you know, added some extra content on that version, as opposed to on the Wii U version, they did actually have, you know, some questionable stuff. So even then, let's move on to the forms of World 2 now, and to get things started, we're about to be getting to World 1, oh no, World 2-1, which, I think the level's name was Across the Fluttering Domes. Or the actual domes, as far as I meant to say for that matter. And yeah, one thing I forgot to mention about this potentially is the fact that every time you're able to reach certain special stages, like specifically the actual S levels, the actual music itself is always had to be like a techno type of theme music in the background, just for the matter of like, test your platforming skills or something like that. So even then, I just want to classify that. So, anyways though, basically in World 2, much like in forms of in Kirby's Epic Yarn in Heartland, well, basically it's more likely a desert-themed level, although except the fact that the biggest difference is the fact that, well, obviously it's not in a flat 2D design or anything like that, it's just more accurately 2.5D dimension, so even then you can definitely tell because every single graphics in specifically Yoshi's Woolly World, and especially noticeable with Yoshi's Crafted World especially as well, that, you know, it's entirely in 3D if you can tell from the background. So even then, it's a pretty nice little, visual structure as far as I'm most likely concerned with this. So even then, that's as far as I can say about this here. So, yeah, today's day is the forms of, the 9th of July, in this case in 2019, and we've only got about 10 more days to go until the Lion King remake will be on its way on the big screen. So even then, I don't know exactly what the reviews of that particular film will actually going to be played out, but I'm sure enough until about next week or so, it would able to actually show up some reviewers and all that stuff for how this film actually holds up compared to the animated version. So even then, it might be not the strongest version, I will think so, because even then, I really prefer the 2D animated version, because, you know, without the fact that it's just for my nostalgia reasons, because unlike Dumbo, the actual remake of Dumbo in 2019, which is the recent film, and first of all, I was going to be able to actually just to bring back some of these original characters from the past, like specifically Timothy Mouse, as far as I'm aware for that name, but unfortunately though, due to the remake is completely ruined by one specific element, to me though anyway, and that was the fact that why in the hell does it have to able to put up with small children as an actor? Although, no offense for you guys out there, but it's just that it just really ruins my nostalgia, because even then though, at least back in 1941 version of Dumbo, at least I still remembered every single aspect about the film since in the VHS days, but still got the film already, but even then, it's just that, well, I'm probably not gonna get Dumbo remake, because it really ruins my nostalgia memory, especially notable where I just cannot believe they managed to ditch the actual mouse character, which is Timothy and stuff, which to me is problematic, because that's actually a really cool sidekick for Dumbo to have from the past, you know? But still, it's just as one of those questionable things. They did manage to able to base it off from something else, but I keep on thinking of the original version of Dumbo back in during the likes of in 1941 almost. But again, it's just a little bit of a coincidence anyway. Whilst compared to Aladdin remake though, which I think Piglet has already mentioned about this in Super Mario Galaxy Let's Play, and he did say about the fact that that film, as far as the remake is concerned, it was pretty okay. I mean, not the best version of Aladdin per se. I mean, I still honestly prefer the animated version, mind you. But even then, because of the fact that, well, the Will Smith, as far as the actual actor of Aladdin, was actually the most highlighted of the actual film to me, though. And also, the actual environment itself is actually pretty alright and such. But one thing it does catch me off guard, though, and that was the fact that with the Cave of Wonders design, is actually a little bit lazy, to say the least, because I remember back in during the likes of in the VHS days with Aladdin, as far as 1992 film and stuff like that, I found that effect for the Cave of Wonders is actually pretty impressive to look at, even especially noticeable. It's almost like a CGI movement and all that stuff, which I think is actually pretty pleasant surprise for my part. But unfortunately though, for the remake though, it just managed to go somewhat a little bit of a lazy design. Like, why in the world does the Cave of Wonders have to put up with a wall and stuff this time, as opposed to its the actual tiger face? And then I just don't get it. But even then, it's just another one of those coincidences anyway, and especially noticeable if some people seem to have, you know, different opinions about some other technical props for that. But even then, still, it's just a little bit of a, well, misunderstanding segment sometimes. But hey, on the plus side note, that, you know how the fact that with, well, I'm not gonna explain about this too much about it, because even then, we're about to be, I was able to see the Lion King remake at some point, but then after whenever I managed to watch that, then, I'm also able to start comparing to the films of, the original version of the Lion King compared to the films of the remake, until at some point at the very end of the month. So even then, While at the same time, that, you know, Sonic and Piglet needs to get back into Super Mario Party to be able to actually just to deal with, the one final mode that they're going to be focusing on for this point. Well, rather than just, you know, the river survival mode, basically, because I'm pretty sure they, managed to done quite, hard enough as it is, especially noticeable on, you know, river survival's hard mode and all that stuff, so you probably get the idea for that. So anyways, let's go ahead and take care of these, green variations of piranha plants right there, which basically this time around though, they now shoot out those little weird green stuff, which if you remember from, I don't know if that might be true, because I know for the fact that it's been such a quite a long time since actually coming back to this, because even then though, well, for whatever reason, I must have played the 3DS version a lot more than the Wii U version to me, because, well, I get it with the 3DS version because of the actual play on the go syndrome, but, for whatever reason, I just seem to able to play the Wii U version the least out of. I have no idea why. I think this is most notably because it's very obvious because of, you can't really take the Wii U gamepad anywhere you go, which is kind of a shame, because even then, at least, thankfully, the Nintendo Switch did manage to able to improve upon everything, so even then though. And speaking of which actually, is the fact that I really don't know if I get a strong feeling about the fact that with the actual sales for Super Mario Maker 2, even though I haven't exactly looked upon the data about it, because even then though, that, you know, that game is almost about like a few weeks ago at this point, well, a few weeks old at that specific rate, until July the 28th, it will be a month old, so who knows? We're able to find out until when some results are. Well, to be more specifically, during later on. So even then, you probably get the idea for that solution. So, anyway, so let's go in. Son of a biscuit! Oh, I'm acting like an idiot right now. As far as at this point, folks, is the fact that I'm actually going to be keep on like feeling very, very clumsy during the later portions of the level, which I think I'm actually missing something, which, truth be told, there's going to be a lot of emphasis. I think this is where we're supposed to able to consider this, thing right here sometimes for this point, people, because as far as I'm aware, that, if I'm actually missing on something, then this means I have to go for a continuous amount of backtracking heavy, and then as a result, though, that should able to actually make me feel like going back into the previous segment of the actual level, and then just like, it's just a lot of busy work, I'm telling you. And no matter what, though, is the fact that the majority of the levels nowadays is gonna get, well, a lot more longer compared to the forms of how it does it on Kirby's Epic Yarn, in my opinion. Because, at least in Kirby's Epic Yarn, where basically if you're able to get fast enough, and plus you don't die, unlike the forms of this game, however, though, because you don't have hearts, whilst, you know, the devilish mode on the 3DS version of Kirby's Epic Yarn makes an existence anyway, though. So even then, though, that is just one of the pointings out. And plus, because the reason why I'm gonna have to go through, like, you know, just 4 levels per video, just for the sake of the actual main purposes, is the fact that we can able to do for the sake of completionist, of course. So, but anywho, though, I might be biased. So even then, though, and most of the time, though, one major gripe with the forms of some levels sometimes, and my personal gripe anyway, though, I'm always missing one of those Miiverse stamps beads, and as a result, though, well, there might be a very useful badge until later on, though, that if those of you if you're having a hard time trying to find some of these, you know, special Miiverse beads and all that stuff, which, we'll mention more now whenever we get to the future worlds for this point, so even then I'll now let's go ahead and switch over to a different colored Yoshi right here. Okay, quick error right there, because, well, if you couldn't tell already, I accidentally managed able to use one of those badges, well, specifically, the big wool bulls, badge, like I usually normally do it, from the past few levels, but if we get into World 2-2, which is, Dupliceus, Devile, which, again, I do apologize for the pronunciation of this level's name, by the way, this level will be unplayable when it comes to, like, using that badge, because even then, though, I was gonna get something, like, specifically the actual, like, you know, the actual collectible of those little, pieces of yarn and stuff, but it might be really impossible to do if you manage to equip that, specific badge. So as a result, I'm also able to actually quit out the actual level, and, you know, I'm also able to do with no badge this time, because even then, I just feel like, well, I'm basically what I'm gonna do for that part. So, anyway, so here's level 2-2. It's basically we need to go through the actual, the entire cave for this level, so even though there's nothing else to be said and done. And if something is unique about this level is the fact that you can able to actually go from like either background or foreground, you know, kind of like how we did on most other Nintendo games, like specifically you know, in the Virtual Boy game called Wario Land, which is probably is the better of the Virtual Boy games as far as I'm usually heard about it. But sadly, I haven't got that game per se because again, I'm not able to actually access to emulators and all that stuff. I know some people seem to do it, but for me though, I just found it very inaccessible when it comes to like you know, just actually access to some of these emulators and stuff like that, which, let me know in the comments below of what the actual, main purpose of the reason I can't able to actually download emulators on there sometimes, which it might be a little bit of a common, thing to do, but even then, no, that's as far as I can tell for that part. So, and another reason why the fact that this is the reason why this master almost took so long to able to actually get back to this though, especially noticeable by the forms of, you know, the later uploads, specifically for Super Mario Galaxy 2 and stuff like that, which I'll mention more on that during the future time, but, once again, though, my, old microphone is actually still a little bit more glitchy and all that stuff. However, recently today, though, is the fact that I've managed to able to order myself a new microphone, so even then, though, hopefully it gets a little bit more better than the forms of, this microphone I'm going to be currently using, but I will say this right now, this might not be happening during at some point in this year, because I'm actually going to be saving my, my new microphone until in 2020, because eventually, whenever I manage to improve upon some of these, video qualities, especially noticeable when we get to, you know, the daily schedules and all that stuff, I'm actually going to be saving the actual, new microphone thing until for next year, specifically for, as I mentioned before, whenever we do a Let's Play of, you know, Yoshi's Crafted World, and especially noticeable in some of these, retakes of some of these, original Let's Plays we're about to be doing. Like, for instance, we like to do Banjo-Tooie for Proppers this time, and especially noticeable with Splatoon, and let's not forget about to ourselves, some other stuff like that. So, Mole Yoshi, dig through spongy earth with B, and dig it up, and dig it down, or dig anywhere. So, yeah, because as you can see, we actually come across into this new transformation right there. This transformation is so similar to the forms of, well, Mole Kirby from Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn, and especially noticeable with, Kirby's Epic Yarn, but except the fact that rather than dealing with motion controls this time, and especially noticeable with how the fact that you no longer have to hold, well, you still need to hold the Wiimote sideways in order to actually just to play this game, but, apart from that, though, it plays exactly the same as, you know, Mole Kirby from Kirby's Epic Yarn. I keep on saying Extra Epic Yarn for some reason though, because I think this might be something to do with like the later releases and all that stuff. So, yeah, you know, you probably get the idea. Once again, we need to be very fast on that specific section, because if you somehow manage to make this a little bit too slow for you, then you would able to actually realize that you have to redo the entire section again. So, you know, you probably get the idea. And I do apologize with my commentary is a little bit too stale at points. It's because, well, obviously because of how the fact that once again the weather's temperature was actually still hot even to this day. Even though it's kind of like the same thing for how it does it about a year ago. From whenever when Sonic is still about to be doing, you know, Sonic managed to able to done some of these recording sessions on, you know, NES Remix 2, so even then, that must have been some consumption for this point. So, speaking of NES Remix 2, actually, it's the fact that there's also another reason why that it's been so long since I actually managed to come back to this, though, for the sake of this Let's Play, is because I'll let Sonic able to actually play through, his Wii U for the time being, especially noticeable that he still definitely need to get back onto, you know, NES Remix 2 after this, data corruption issues for our Nintendo Wii U system. So hopefully though, whenever he gets back into some progressioning, most notably with the next game on the NES Remix 2 compilation and all that stuff, even especially noticeable in some of these mission objectives and all that stuff, hopefully he should be back by then, especially noticeable with how the fact that he really needs to able to get that Let's Play finished before we move on to the forms of possibly when Nintendo announces even though there's still no sign of the forms of the SNES remakes or something like that, because, well, most people seem to be able to have some wish list for that specific announcement for, you know, in certain Nintendo Directs and during the past, but some people seem to predict about the fact that they're eventually trying to announce these SNES remakes, which is essentially a combination of some of these Super Nintendo games and then just translate them into a micro game, which I kind of wish if that was a thing, because Super Nintendo was actually a very unique game console and all that stuff. But still no luck apparently when it comes to that specific announcement of SNES remakes, because I really wish that will be existence, because even then, if that does, well, I'm actually going to be very happy for it. Well, I could assure you because of how the fact that it might actually happen on the Nintendo Switch, because even then, every now and then now, you can now finally able to use the some of these comments now on the original not the original Mario Maker, but the forms of Super Mario Maker 2. But thanks to that, though, however, I would hoping that will happen. So even then, that concludes the some pieces of yarn right there, and I think that pretty much does it in this area. So of course, the final few things is actually going to be at the exit portion of this level. So hopefully we're able to get from here. I'm quite surprised that this level wasn't nearly as long as far as I hoped, but again, if you really want to go after these collectibles, like specifically the actual pieces of yarn and all that stuff, then obviously we need to able to actually just well, spend a long amount of time on any sort of levels like this. So you probably get the drill for this point right here. So anyway, though, so let's go ahead and try to get up there and grab the smiley flower, and especially noticeable with some more beads to top it all off. And once again, I'm still off by that one godforsaken me first bead. Oh jeez, I might as well find out on my on-off screen as soon as I jump cut. Although what I'm gonna do here is the fact that I'm actually gonna be doing one last level for the time being, because once I'm done with that, specifically World 2-3. Then I should be able to actually go after some of these remaining collectibles. The only exception is, however, though, is of course the actual health points and all that stuff, which, thankfully, though, in World 2-2, I'm actually able to accomplish the no damage scenario. So even then, no. Speaking of which, actually, when it comes to the health points in some special worlds in this game, well, unfortunately, seem to say that when you're trying to collect some more of those hearts, you're pretty much limited for just only about 10 heart pieces per use. So even then, I just want to classify that. So anyways, though, so now we can actually access to this next level right here, which appears to be some sort of a chain jump of any sort. And yeah, I think we should probably just get this thing to it. So here we go with level 2-3, walk the chomp to unwind. So even then, though, we have ourselves some sort of a different gimmick around here, which first of all, let's go ahead and equip the badge or anything like that. So and as soon as we're able to equip that, then we're gonna have ourselves an easier time on this level. So, but anywho, though, so, once again, folks, I do apologize with all this, you keep on hearing me doing the actual, deep breathing and all that stuff sometimes, because at the moment right now, I'm still in a little bit uncomfortable with all this, recording session. Well, not so bad on, during the capture software, but when it comes to doing with all this, commentary and stuff like that on the microphone, oh my god, I just had a little bit more uncomfortable positioning and stuff like that. I kinda wish I just wanted to get ourselves the actual, table desk or anything like that, but unfortunately though, due to my new room, it's actually got quite enough space, I don't think. So even then, that's as far as I can most likely, trying to say for that point, mind you. So even then, hopefully whenever I use the new microphone at some point in next year, hopefully, though, I should able to actually decide to make ourselves a little bit more of a better usage of that microphone, I'm hoping, because I'm still having a lot of issues with my old microphone, or the most recent microphone I've got, which I'm still currently using for the time. So, you probably get the idea what I'm going to say about this here. So anyways, though, when it comes to this particular level, as far as the actual gimmick of this level, is the fact that, as you can tell, the chain jump itself might actually just to go straight after you. And in order to actually decide to actually use him as the actual, in the forms of, World 1-3, where we usually use that from before, but now we need to actually just use them a lot, specifically for some puzzle elements, and especially noticeable with some of those collectibles you'd be going after for. Like, for instance, that, if you really want to, get the chain jump onto the top portion, well, you need to able to unravel the wall, and then he'll transform into its normal behavior for the chain jump. And then after, when you're able to get him up there, like specifically in this spot right there, you need to let him get up there before you're able to do anything. And then if you do that, then you're able to transform into its solid obstacle and stuff. So even then though, that's the only main gimmick of this level, because even then though, it will become a thing during the later levels of this game, which even then though, trust me when I say this, we need to do that a lot. So you know, you probably get the idea of how this is going. So but anywho though, so let's go ahead and let the chain jump just manage to get into this part right here, and then just trying to keep on pushing it before some level progression as far as I'm concerned. And I get a feeling that there might be something up there, stuff like the pieces of wool over there, but first of all, let me just take care of this piranha plant right there. So just in case I can able to actually just, well, just trying to climb all the way up right here. So because of that though, there's going to be invisible walls from time to time, or the actual like hidden areas that we can able to actually just to see what's beyond on that specific well-placed wall over there. So yeah, you probably get the idea. So anyways, we got ourselves the you know, the next piece of the wall and stuff. So even then though, and another thing I just want to talk about this actually is the fact that at the moment right now, I'm actually going to be playing through on my own time, which is specifically the Super Nintendo Classic mini games. And then as a result of this kinds of stuff, I've managed to be able to make myself the entire checklist of what certain Super Nintendo games on the Super Nintendo Classic mini games I've already completed. Like, at the moment right now, we've already completely done with one game on that particular system, and that honor goes to, you know, Kirby Superstar / Kirby's Fun Pack on the European version of the game, because obviously we've already done that Let's Play since a year ago now. And, as a result, though, when it comes to everything else with that specific system, when it comes to doing with certain Let's Plays with that particular console, well, there is Super Mario Kart, which I'm also able to do that at some point after, well, after finish up with I would say the first half of the Mario Kart set of Let's Plays, or to be more specifically, the modern Mario Kart games, because when we get to the classic Mario Kart games, that will be at some point in next year if possible, because even then I really love to be able to actually just to go for the rest of the Mario Kart Let's Plays of series of games and all that stuff. Like, we've already done the redo Let's Play of Mario Kart DS due to the Nintendo Wii U eShop downloadable version's better quality and stuff like that. And let's not forget to mention about Mario Kart Wii, which we've also done a redo Let's Play on that. And as well as, especially noticeable with Mario Kart 7 during about a year ago now. Well, almost a year ago at this point. Well, it wasn't until when it's like December or something. So even in unless it's hoping it during next year, we should probably do Mario Kart 8 / Mario Kart 8 Deluxe specifically for this year. So even then, for the sake of the actual, like, you know, the redo Let's Play and stuff like that. However, though, the main focus on that particular Let's Play I've actually realized is that I'm actually not going to be going for the Wii U version. Well, the only time it might actually show something Wii U related is, of course, some of those extra features that the Switch version doesn't have. Like, for instance, the Miiverse stamps, which I know for the fact that's no longer usable, and yeah, apologize with the actual some graphical fidelity when it comes to the actual you know, these estimation mark blocks will just manage to flicker for a few seconds, because obviously for the capture card's sake. So even then, that if you look up on the actual main TV, then the actual quality itself seems pretty visible. So even then, you probably get the idea for that point. So anyways, I get a feeling there might be something is usually over there. Well, it's not so much in here, but if we double check it's beyond here, well, we got ourselves the smiley flower, of course. So even then, and yeah, looks like we're doing so far anyway, though. So far, so good anyway, though. So, well, despite some of these, you know, missing items, like, for instance, the, you know, the, Miiverse icons, or the actual beads and all that stuff, but hopefully, though, until the future, though, anyway, though, we're able to actually come across into one of those items that are specifically super useful, especially noticeable if you, like, you know, trying to 100% for everything on this entire game. So, yeah, you probably get the idea for that. So, anyways, let's go ahead and grab some of these, more health, even though it's a little bit redundant. Well, the only time you need to be very careful of is, of course, the Chain Chomp himself, because, if you manage to unravel him, well, obviously he plays out exactly like the previous Chain Chomp dogs from the past few Mario titles and stuff. So even then though, it's very simple, self-explanatory if you manage to know what you're doing for this particular, you know, the levels gimmick and stuff. So even then, you probably get the idea for that specific solution right here. So even then though, yeah. So anyways, let's go ahead and ground pound here, and we're trying to make this a little bit even, but first, before we do anything, we got ourselves some more Me First patches, and especially noticeable with the pieces of yarn right here. So, yeah, it's very easy to miss that, though, if you're ever first time playing for all this kinds of stuff. But then again, it's been such a quiet few days since actually coming back to this, though, kind of think about it. Although, if they, kind of think about it, though, specifically for the sake of this entire Let's Play, aside from, some extra features and all that stuff, which, this might be considered to be the longest of the actual Let's Plays by a good feel and stuff like that. Well, at least to me, though, anyway, though, because, well, the majority of the levels in Yoshi's Woolly World is considerably much more longer than he forms of how it does in Epic Yarn. At least to me, though, anyway, though. So anyway, so let's unravel the Chain Chomp right here, and make sure he needs to go after you, because even then, every time when you're trying to unravel Chain Chomp, not to mention, is the fact that sometimes he always attempts to go after you every time you unravel him. So, but anyways, in this section right there, I believe we need to go between those two different sides of a level, because as you can see, there are two different switches that we need to activate, but we can't able to activate just one of them, but we do need to activate two of them at the same time, because if you do that, well, you would able to actually continue your progressioning. So even then, I should probably point things out for this point, but then again, with the big balls of yarn ability, might actually not work properly though sometimes, because of the actual specific gap you need to go from between. So even then, I was a little bit more inconsistent. You ever think about it? But even then, let's go ahead and go after this the next piece of wool over there, so that we can able to actually rescue another set of Yoshis for this point, even with the different patterns and all that stuff. So yeah, you probably get the idea for that. So anyways, let's not activate the checkpoint for quite some time, but if we manage to able to, you know, just try to get the Chain Chomp back into its place, and, well, just shove it right over there, right next to that specific switch, and, well, after activating that question mark cloud, then we can able to continue. So even then, before we leave, let's not forget about the actual smiley flower, because if you somehow bypass that completely, well, sadly to say, is that much like in any other Mario games, or even certain Yoshi platformer games and stuff like that, well, there's no way you can backtrack unless if you if you manage to look at the entire environment very carefully. So yeah, you probably get the idea for that. So yeah, look at all kinds of white walls right there we actually continuously got. But before we do that, actually, let's just go ahead and shove this Chain Chomp here first, because the reason why I'm going to save this up for later, because, well, if you somehow manage to push those two at the same time, well, you're probably not going to let the actual switch to be active, however, though. So even then, if you manage to able to do that successfully, then this happens. We got ourselves not only the final piece of the wall, but look at that. We got ourselves all of these Me First patches. So even then, though, and to top it all off, we actually did manage to able to take no damage on this level. So even then, it's a pretty nice little way to able to noticing that. So even then, because, you know, the only time you need to be very careful of is, of course, the Chain Chomps themselves. Because if you unravel them, well, obviously they'll still chase after you. So even then, I think that pretty much does it for level 2-3. And, of course, before we end off the actual video itself, potentially, is the fact that, well, obviously, we need to be able to hit back into the previous stages on, well, I might as well able to do, no damage in, level 1-S on off-screen. But as far as the previous two levels, as far as I'm concerned, well, not only for the sake of the forms of the Me First patches between these two levels, but it's also no damage on, you know, level 2-1. So I might as well able to actually do that off-screen too. So even then, let's see what, the pieces of wool of Yoshi we can able to get. We got ourselves the Caress Yoshi, which I think this is actually based off as an orange fruit or something like that, which it could be maybe true or not, but even then, I just want to classify for saying. So even then, I'll meet you guys back from some of these missing collectibles in the previous two levels. So I'll meet you guys back, and this might take a little bit of a long while to able to get into that specific stuff, as you could believe. Alright, so if this is it, I'm gonna scream. Son of a... Okay, so I believe the last beat... I think I actually ignored that yellow beat by accident right there. So, yeah, that's pretty bad for my part right there, so silly me. Alright, so even then though we actually got every single stars as we can get, so even then though I think, seem to say, that we got the endings off at this point right there, I'm afraid, guys. So join me next time on Let's Play Yoshi's Woolly World, and we'll switch over the different Yoshi right there. So even then though, again, join me next time on Let's Play Yoshi's Woolly World, is that we are about to continue on to World 2-4, which is the next fortress of the entire game. So even then though, and yeah. That's all I can say. So see you guys next time. Later, fellas.